Inman back at it, breaking down Eric Kendricks' pick six during the 34-7 thrashing of the Cincinnati Bengals, in which the Minnesota Vikings clinched the NFC North Division. Remember, Kendricks came out in 2015, won the Buckus Award, given to the nation's best linebacker. It just goes to show and remind us again how productive he was in college for the 3 years he played for the UCLA Bruins. Although he didn't get the pre-draft love or hype or buzz because he was a little undersized, 6 foot, maybe 232 pounds. You got the Ryan Shaziers coming out, the big, bulky, long, lanky, running the 4.39 40s or whatever. That's just not his style. That's just not how he wins. How does he win? Diagnoses plays quickly, great football IQ and awareness, and great short area quickness, great burst, can sink his hips, change directions, get sideline to sideline. As we've seen every year with the Minnesota Vikings, he continues to get better. And again, I think he's always one of the team's leading tacklers, which is not by coincidence. Great in man coverage, great in zone coverage, and again, as we'll see, he makes plays on the ball. What are we running? It's a classic Mike Zimmer cover 3 look. Tons of different variations and looks by Mike Zimmer. Bottom line, though, you got Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes, Adrian Sendejo chewing up the thirds of the field. They each got a third. Underneath, you got Harrison Smith in the box, roaming around, which we love. We got Anthony Barr and Terrence Newman playing that zone. At the line, 3 down linemen, Everson Griffin, the nose tackle, and then Danielle Hunter. And then you've got Brian Robeson standing up, playing that joker role, and Eric Kendricks filling in the other A-gap, something that we're pretty all familiar with now under Zimmer, who almost always deploys that double A-gap look on third down. Roll the tape. The first thing you see, both Robeson and Kendricks show a false step, or I'll call it a decoy step, towards the line of scrimmage. This is key for 2 reasons. One, it helps play the run first. You always stop the run first. We all know that. And although the play design will ultimately call for Robeson and Kendricks to drop back in coverage, if it were a run, then they're already ahead of the game, moving towards the line of scrimmage and soaking up those running lanes. 2, and this is important, it forces these interior linemen to anticipate blitz and stand pat for that extra second or half second instead of helping double team those other rushers. And you see this with Zim a lot actually on his third down play calls, because it's really a 2-for-1. It's a BOGO. Buy one, get one. You're essentially freeing up your edge rushers, so Everson Griffin and Danielle Hunter in this case, and allowing them to get one-on-one blocking, which is the dream scenario. Plus, you still get those 2 extra bodies dropping back in coverage. So you force those interior linemen to freeze for that half second. Meanwhile, you've got 2 of the better pass rushers in the league, one-on-one with your tackles out there on an island, and on top of it, you've still got those 2 extra defenders dropping back in coverage, all because of that false step. So it's amazing how much of an advantage just a little detail and wrinkle like that can have when you sync it up perfectly. So now we know it's not a run. You've got your decoy step done, and now we're dropping back into coverage, and the first thing that jumps out to me is Kendricks' hips. He's nearly parallel with the sideline, right? He's got his hips turned nearly sideways, which is huge because it allows him to get a full range of motion and view of the entirety of his side of the field. You can see it here, the view he gives himself, and he can do that because he knows he's got help behind him with Anthony Barr in the opposite hash. The other thing that I absolutely love is how long he holds his eyes and reads this play, these receivers' routes, before turning his eyes back to the quarterback. He holds them as long as possible, which lets him scan and dissect every possible movement by these 2 receivers. And if you've ever watched most linebackers drop back into their zone, they don't hold this look nearly as long as Kendricks does. They take a quick peek at the general vicinity and direction they're headed, and then boom, that linebacker's head snaps back to the quarterback. But here, Kendricks is so confident in A, the help behind him and around him, and B, his own read and react skills, that he knows he can hang out that extra half second to get one last look at what these wideouts are doing. So because he was able to do that, he sees and soaks up these last couple of extra steps by Brandon LaFell and Alex Erickson, and he sees that LaFell's running this shallow crossing route, which he knows he's going to ride as long as he can before letting him go to Anthony Barr. And B, because he was able to stake out that extra half second, he can diagnose Erickson starting to sink his hips and slow down his feet, meaning it's likely he too will be making a break around the same depth as LaFell. Now that he's got this info, he snaps his head back to Dalton, and now, just like my marriage counselor always says, it's all about eye contact. Kendricks has the information that he needs, and he's just reading Dalton's eyes for the rest of the play. And in doing so, he can tell he's starting to lock onto his target. In typical Kendricks fashion, he's able to ride LaFell to the left and almost bait Dalton. And in an instant, watch Kendricks sink and flip those hips back and explode with those quick feet and acceleration into Dalton's passing lane, undercutting the route and intercepting the pass. Again, it's reading and reacting, watching Dalton's eyes, locking onto his target. He starts to wind up to pass. Well, Kendricks almost baits him by following LaFell into Anthony's bar zone and then sinking and flipping those hips back and exploding into the passing lane. Just like Kendricks hoped, Dalton assumes Kendricks will stick to LaFell and tries to squeeze one into a very tight window, a ball that just shouldn't have been thrown. As you see, even if Kendricks doesn't step in front of this, you've got Terrence Newman ready to make a play on this ball as well. While the execution from the Bengals was poor, I will say this: the play design seems a little odd from the get-go. Had Erickson just ran a fly route, he likely could have gotten over the top of Kendricks and inside of Newman, which is a very common cover 3 buster. But we're talking about the Bengals. Once he's got the pick, it's just hopping in the whip and driving right into the end zone. Kendricks seems like a Cadillac kind of guy, maybe a Porsche 911, Lamborghini maybe, whatever the hell he's got, buckling up, patiently setting up his blocks, something Andrew Sandejo couldn't do last week, and then hitting the gas. Superman dive into the end zone for 6. Judges score that 9.2, 9.3, 9.2, 9.4, and a 6 from the Russians. That's Eric Kendricks, though, huh? Not the biggest guy in the field, but the football awareness, knowing his surroundings, the anticipation, read, react skills. They're off the charts. It's been really fun to watch this guy develop in an amazingly efficient Mike Zimmer defense. That's all I got for now. I'm going to send you off with a few more pass coverage highlights from Kendricks' earlier days. Check back to zonecoverage.com for plenty more breakdowns. For now, I'm Luke Inman, signing out.
Eric Kendricks. He'll score. Pressure on Mariota, and Kendricks scores, and it was Everson Griffin who was in Mariota's face, and a return for the touchdown. A defensive TD for the Vikings, who take the lead.
One thing with Everson Griffin, he's so fast off the line of scrimmage, he's going to force Mariota to make a bad decision. Watch this. Look, he's on touch. He's right in his face. He thinks he has this normal outlet to Douglas. But Kendricks, not to be fooled, does a good job of cutting under Douglas, making it athletic play as a linebacker, going the distance.